Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, and welcome to me sitting down during a live stream because it's comfortable. This is Luthiers Question Time Live, episode 83. And, well, I'm here to answer your questions about guitar building, and we'll see how that goes. Welcome. We have got J Boogie 164 Luthier builds, Tahoe Mike Borgonian Evolution, Jaybird Customs, Lisa, Ape Song, Frugal Fixer Guitars, Sunbase. Do you know what? There's so many names here that I recognize. You guys need to find some friends or grandparents or something that don't come to the stream and pull them in. Now, there is one thing, and I do not currently have visuals on the screen up there because this one here next to me decided not to work properly. So if the audio goes or something like that happens, let me know. Old man Bill, how you doing? Yeah, it was good to see you yesterday at the Yandles craft fair. We took a bunch of vintage tools with vintagetoolshop.com, and it was a really good show. A lot of people like antique tools, for one, and we like talking to people who use what we purvey, which is evidenced by the fact that I'm sitting here at 8 o'clock UK time on a Sunday evening talking to you instead of I don't know what, something boring like watching a movie. Anyhow, it's all good. So, okay. We need chat show music. This is true. I need to have a stick so I can push record from here potentially, or go live, etc. Anyhow, it's all fun and games. Now, you know the drill by this point. I will answer as many questions as I can. Super chats are the only way to guarantee that I will absolutely see them. In fact, I need to click that viewer activity button. There we go. Old man Bill has just joined all that jazz. Welcome. Thank you very much. That is, he's now a member of the Luthiers Guild at Crimson Guitars, etc. Kiwi Quarter says spray paint is the devil. I thought the devil was the devil. Maybe spray paint is the devil, and yeah, argue in the comments below. There's a story there, Kiwi Quarters, and I want to hear it. Okay, now, questions. It's very, very hot. Sporadic Amnesic says, evening, Mr. Crowe, evening, everyone. Greetings, Sporadic Amnesic. Now, is this amnesia sporadic because you have a short circuit in your brain, or because, like me, you just forget? Generally it's a plectrum or a tool. You put it down and it's just poof, gone. There's another story there. Okay, now, let us have a look. Martin of the Nuclear Village. Sweet Tea Guitars was the first person I saw to join the chat. Greetings and salutations and all that jazz. Don't have any questions except for the fact that I need batteries in there. How you doing, Paul Needs? Okay, so I had an interesting day today. I spent a chunk of the morning in the direct sunshine, wandering around the Sherborne Castle Classic and Supercar event. There were some pretty awesome vehicles on display, and it got me thinking about how connected custom cars, or just the sort of luxury car market and guitars is, and how much we as guitar builders owe to the automotive industry. Our Fender's custom colors early on, well, Fender's colors are automotive colors and were the colors that were being used in the factory plants back then, and yeah, we've got so much from that. I do, and I've said this before, that I would very much like to feel more free to customize guitars. Too many people with guitars, even brand new ones, from the more popular brands are so scared about personalizing them and changing them to fit their own personalities and ideas that they just never do it. I've had death threats from people on a very old video where I was relicking an old Paul Reed Smith guitar, and I did a very bad job of it. It was not great, but it's some person's guitar. Let me do what they want. And it was a commission. But anyway, it's fine. Sporadic Amnesiac is explaining his name, or their name, saying, lol, it's a combination of 2 songs by the band CKY. There we go, okay. Well, I do feel like a sporadic amnesiac, I really do. Sweetie's coming with a question, with a super chat as well. Thank you very much, Sweetie. It says, I'll kick it off. Where do you recommend we get 2mm brad point bits? I can only find them from China. Okay, the only company that I know of that does them is Famag, and that is the smallest that they do in an actual brad. Now, yeah, that's it. Famag, F-A-M-A-G, incredibly well engineered. I mean, their machines may as well be used to make watches. They are that precise. And yeah, I'm a fan. So there we go. In fact, they make my 2 favorite sets of drills, actually, come to think of it. So there we go. I'm ever so slightly biased in that I didn't pay for those drills, but they are not paying me cash money to say this in any way, shape or form. They are just, in my experience, the best drill bits that I've ever experienced. There we go. Okay, Kiwi Quarters. Okay, I'm not understanding what I'm reading here, so I'm going to read to the completion of the sentence without scanning it beforehand. So let's see where this goes. Fish eyes, comma, alligatoring, comma, same brand clear that just beads up just about every possible issue, and it's just the headstock. Okay, okay. We're talking about finishing. It is almost the base finish, the base rattle can that you're applying may not actually be at fault here. Okay, hold on. Just about every possible issue with the finish, and it is just the headstock. That's really interesting. What was on that headstock before? That's the question. It sounds like there's something, a substrate that's causing issues potentially, but also a lot of issues with finish are to do with the temperature, the humidity of the place where you are applying that finish, or almost as often as those 2 issues, in fact more often than those 2 issues, it's you trying to put on too much. Little and often is 100% the way forward where it comes to finishes. Now you've noticed what's happening here. I've spent some time organizing this new workshop. It's still very much a work in progress. This is not pretty. It's not organized. It's not well lit, although it's comfortable. So there is that. The other day I finished the timber store area in the area that my bench used to be, and with that extra space gained, I have the floor space to do some sort of rudimentary home workshop spray setup. I think I'm morally obligated to do that at this point. Okay, so yeah, Kiwi Quarters, I am very sorry for those that you're having these issues, but yeah. It really sounds like there's something on that headstock, or there was something on that headstock that is causing the issues. So do what you can to clean up underneath and start again potentially. Okay, queries, questions, comments and criticisms. The Big Unit has just posted his video practicing with crimson stains on ash. Oh, the horror, I don't have a pencil on me. I always have pencils on me. I will make sure to check that out. I trust they all worked very well for you, and you managed to get the finish that you were after. Okay. So yes, tomorrow people are commenting about the weather. It's very hot everywhere. It has been particularly warm in the States, and generally a couple of weeks after I see you guys complaining about the weather, that same sort of weather hits here. Tomorrow is potentially going to be the first time in the UK in recorded history that we actually hit 40 degrees, which is going to be interesting. Vulcan Essence says, hi Ben, how do you fill wood grain if you intend to stain the wood? The oil and sandpaper will leave stain streaks as it lifts up. Cheers. Absolutely. So yeah, the oil and sandpaper fills the grain, but it will also sand away a portion of the substrate, leaving a patchy finish, and you do not want that. I am guilty of not particularly wanting a flat finish 9 times out of 10. That being said, you can there's so many different things. A sanding sealer is probably the best and quickest way to get started. Now you can do the oil and sandpaper thing, but instead of oil, use shellac and sand the shellac in. I would suggest that you stain your shellac first a little bit so that it matches the color of the stain that you're going to be using after the fact. Once that has dried and cured, then you very carefully sand back so that you've got raw wood, which will take the stunning stain that you want to apply, but you don't sand far enough back that you are pulling stuff and ripping the filler out of the grain. People use epoxy as filler, but that obviously negates staining. People use, in the guitars that we're manufacturing at Crimson headquarters, the grain filler that we use is just the first coat of lacquer that is sprayed on, essentially. It's a particularly thick, particularly solid finish that fills everything and then is flattened down, and then we go with a second coat of a different formulation of lacquer, of varnish, that is high gloss or matte, or whatever we are trying to achieve on that particular instrument. Another option for filling the wood is egg whites, apparently. But this is another problem. This is something that I should experiment with. Okay, so let's have a look and see what messages we've got. I just saw Mark Jennings' name come up. He always does that. Whenever I'm on a stream, he'll message me just to just to mess with me. Okay. Okay, on our Discord, if you haven't joined the Crimson Guitars Discord, please check it out. There's a description below. A lot of people are on there on a regular basis talking about guitars and guitar building. I have a photograph from Scotsman asking me to identify a guitar, a tree. The problem is it's still a tree and has bark on, and I have zero, I am not good at that. So I'm hoping that somebody else will do that. Rocket Punk also via Discord says, hi Ben, I had a weird idea the other day for my GGBO next year. People are already planning for GGBO 23. And yes, I did have to look at the date there. I would like to try and make a neck out of spruce or softwood, but have it be a laminate with a 3mm thick steel bar in the middle. So it's like a 3-piece neck with a steel spruce, glued with either epoxy or fish glue. Fish glue wouldn't do, as I don't think CA glue would hold in the long run. It definitely would not. CA glue on that would shock the first time you drop the guitar or even strummed it quite hard. Yeah, I don't think that would work. You would have to use epoxy and you would scrape the hell out of the metal, score it, scratch it, etch it, to have something that the epoxy holds on to. And you would need he says, I would also need a dozen bottles or so of super glue, and I couldn't afford that. The problem is that I know I'll have a threaded insert on one side with an M4 bolt going through about every 10 or 15 centimeters and plugs on the other side to hide. but I don't know if I should also tap my steel bar or not. No truss rod. Eesh. Just like on the old Martins, because if I use actual steel, it shouldn't move in the slightest. What would you do? First of all, I would put a truss rod in. Steel moves, metal moves, depending on the temperatures. In fact, metal moves more than wood due to temperature differentiations, I would suspect. Wood moves due to humidity and things like that, and it's a relatively slow thing unless you go swimming with your guitar. Steel will fluctuate in size and strength and position, etc., from a cold morning to a hot afternoon, period. Aluminium neck guitars are not good for that reason, or at least have issues as a result of that. I'm not going to say they're not good guitars, because that's a sweeping statement, and I hate sweeping statements. Was that a sweeping statement? Probably. Okay, so yes, that is a thing. I absolutely do not think that a guitar should ever be built without a truss rod. You need to have the ability to adjust not the action, but the curve of the neck, depending on who is playing the instrument, period. I have long considered doing exactly what you're talking about, but instead of a three-piece construction, I would use wood, then metal, then wood in the center where the truss rod goes, then metal, then wood. Okay, it gives you two pretty stripes. In fact, I started doing exactly that. I started building a guitar. With aluminium stripes going down the center. And the whole thing failed because, and this was a very long time ago, I think it was Bubinga, and I just could not get the Bubinga flat with the hand tools I had available at the time, and it just ended up being diabolically bad. I would do it with aluminium, I would do it with bronze, and I would do it as an interesting thing to do from a visual point of view, and it could add something to the sound, some sustain, some ring, some brightness. But it is not going to be easier than making a traditional neck. It is not going to be cheaper in any way, shape or form than doing a traditional neck. Now, finally, I wouldn't bolt through from either side of the neck. I would route from the top if I wasn't doing a truss rod, and I would have a keyway with two bolts hidden inside the neck, and and I've got an actual mental block about this. I used them in on the back of the Cyberpunk 2077 guitar build. Turnbuckles, something like that. But anyway, that's where I would go. Now, let's have a look. Sporadic Amnesic says, or asks, or says, I haven't read it yet, so I'm not too sure. The wood used for the base build, do you think glow-in-the-dark pigment and resin would look good injected into the holes, similar to the fret slots? I did consider that, I really did. The thing that stopped me was I like the holes, and I like how naturalistic it looks and feels. It would take rather a lot of resin and a hell of a lot of pigment. And the biggest thing that always stays my hand when I'm looking at glow-in-the-dark stuff is that I don't play my guitars or basses in the dark. Do you? Even if you're on stage, you've got lights going and fog machines and I hope an audience baying for your hugs and kisses. Quote me on that. So yeah, I just don't think glow-in-the-dark material is actually of any real use in most situations. Maybe side dots for the 3 seconds in between flashes on your thing, but in that case I would rather have LEDs on the side of my fretboard. Or diamonds. I once installed for a customer cubic zirconia side dots, and I raised them about 0.5 millimeter above the edge of the fretboard so they would grab any available light and just sparkle. Nowadays I would do it in tubes, so I would have a silver tube with the cubic zirconia in, and that then to maximize the light rather than just gluing it into wood. But yeah, that was a fun one. That was a fun one. There aren't that many jobs that I redo in my mind on a regular basis. That is one. Okay. Let's see if I have any more questions via the Discord here. Barkeep, good question. Hi Ben, have you ever thought of or heard of using urushi tree lacquer on a guitar? That is the Japanese lacquer used for lacquer work. It takes a long time. He goes on to say, this is the same lacquer used on bento boxes or Asian lacquerware pieces and often has that vibrant red color. I have thought of it, I've considered it, I have thought about the fact that I have a habit of going long on builds, and that is one of those processes that takes a long time. I have also considered using a lacquerware technique of inlay. So essentially you put the pieces that you like marquetry, you'll put your shells and abalones and things on top and then lacquer over it and flatten it down. I've considered doing that with epoxies or spray lacquers, etc., as a cheat. But yeah, I mean, urushi is done. I'm pretty sure there's 18 or 20 different layers before you even get to the sort of building up the final thing. It's mind-blowing and incredibly cool. I've got down there a library of probably half a dozen or maybe even a dozen books on Japanese arts and crafts and carving and techniques and Japanese tools, and I am a fan. I am a fan indeed. Okay. Luthier Builds says, how do you recommend getting the most shine out of Crimson High Build oil? 100% if you have got a natural finish, i.e. you have not stained underneath, then yeah, I will apply it with an abrasive. I will flood the instrument in in the guitar finishing oil, and then while it is wet, I will rub it in with wet and dry paper. So 2000 grit, 2500 grit, and if I want a particularly shiny finish, I will go higher than that, 3, 5, maybe even use a little bit of micro mesh. This fills the grain to a certain extent, but it also buffs everything up beautifully. You are not going to get a high gloss like on a nitro or something like that, but you can get it very shiny. I've done the same in not too many passes, and you can carefully buff it up afterwards. If you have a stain, you are much more limited, and it is just a case of elbow grease and very fine tissue paper and potentially microfiber cloths if you don't mind sacrificing the cloth. Mike and Noel, how are you? Acoustic body construction with aluminium sides. Easier to bend? Unique results. I'm just lazy and scared to do it the traditional way. Okay, several funny things. I just on my Instagram posted literally this afternoon, a video. What do they call it? A reel I was leaving this car show and saw an incredible raw aluminium car, and I love the look of that sort of thing, and that was it. I thought, what the hell, I'm going to do a video on that, and it's aluminium and it could be fun, and I would like to at some point do a guitar, not out of a solid billet of aluminium that's just been routed away. I want to do carves and curves and rivets and body joins and things like that out of thin sheet stock because it interests me. Now, that's funny. The second funny thing is Micah says unique results as his second point here. The first aluminium guitars were acoustic guitars, and they were built in the late 1800s when aluminium production was first commercialized. Aluminium guitars have been around for well over 100 years at this point, which is something not many people know, and it's pretty damn cool. Okay. I don't think it would be easier to bend necessarily, would it? I suppose easier to bend, yes, but far harder to keep bent and keep in the position that you want. Are you lazy? Probably not. Are you scared to do it the traditional way? I don't blame you. But the reality is, if you're looking for an easier way of doing it, I would use multi-laminate construction. You do not need to give in to all of these snobs who say that the sides of an acoustic guitar need to be solid wood. They 100% do not. You can use 2 or 3 different, I would say use 3 plies of thin veneer. Make yourself a mold, glue it up, and then just push it in place. And that will hold. You can use a vacuum press if you want, but if not, just an A and a B, a male and a female mold, and you will be done. It is a strong, stable, easy, quick method of getting acoustic sides without any of the hassle, fuss, or worry of using a bending iron, or the expense and worry of buying a great big acoustic bending system. Carl Price says, put an LED at the end of the tube and then you can light the gem from underneath. I agree, and if not an LED, if you don't want to go that far, just a single strip of fiber optic cable coming from somewhere where the guitar is going to get a lot of light, and then both from the sides and underneath you will have ambient light coming through the gems. In fact, I should probably, it's something that's been on my mind for a long time. I think I need to do that. And I've already lost that comment. Wow. Okay. Disco Stu, how you doing? Says, hi Ben, after doing a 6-day course at your place and meeting you, my daughter still does not believe that I met you. Can you please give a big shout out to my daughter, Kitty Amorina? I love you, man. Kitty, he is absolutely lying to you. 100%. I don't know who we're talking to here. I don't know what's going on. I'm a little bit scared, to be honest. Kitty, your dad's awesome. And I did meet him far less than I would have liked to. I've not been spending as much time at headquarters as I should recently. But yeah, he's cool. And I just need to say you've got an incredibly cool name. Okay, Kiwi Quarters. What the hell kind of wood are cigar boxes made out of? I made a kit amp. Drill holes are ellipses even with stepping up the bits. Splintery AF. Yeah, cheap. Splintery. Generally, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of cedar. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I've had the issue. JS Trucking and Guitars says, seriously, an aluminium car? That's nothing. Lol, I saw a 1960s Batmobile randomly at a Cracker Barrel. I saw a couple of Batmobiles at the car show today. It's almost as if they're a thing. Okay. Let's just go live, see what's happening. That's not a particularly pleasant shot, is it? I need to sort. I had the fantastic idea. It totally didn't come from anybody on the streams. I've now got the 2 mobile cameras on mic stands, which is giving me a lot more floor space. I'm very excited about that. Jay is trucking, by the way. Hi. Now, Barry Christian says, Mike and Noel, I would suggest making a jig to bend the aluminium. Getting it to not spring back or overbend it will be the test. If having an aluminium back, you could tack weld it into shape. Isn't welding aluminium like orders of magnitude more difficult than welding steel? And if that is the case, I would just make it out of steel, to be honest. Or wood. Wood seems good. VCS the Bone Cruncher says, really fret dots and inlay are purely decorative. If I had to rely on them to play a part, I wouldn't feel I knew it well enough to be performing. You are a better instrumentalist than I. I need some help with the locations. Just, yeah, it's one of those things. Jay is trucking, saying, at least you're seeing my super chat this week. I sent 3 last week that you didn't see. I was not having a good week last week. I was, I cut the stream off short. I was feeling very ill, like hilariously. It was not good. And I wasn't on thing. Anyway, I apologize. Sweetie's come in and says, I finally topped 1,000 subs on my YouTube. Thanks for your help. It's a pleasure, man. This is an awesome community. Thanks to all of you for subscribing to my channel. Peace and love. I do enjoy your build, Sweetie. Okay. J Boogie 164 says, I want to thin out one of my guitars. I want to thin out the neck of one of my guitars. I am terrified of ruining it. Any tips for a DIYer? You are unlikely to ruin it unless you go far too far. And I would suggest that whatever you use, do it gently. It is far better to spend 3 hours with a piece of sandpaper glued to a block of wood than it is to take an Iwasaki rasp or a Shinto saw rasp or something like that and go too far. Do a little bit, change the shape, play it for a while, see if you like it. Leave the strings on. If you start going too far and you start to see the strings move, that's where you start worrying. But in reality, taking a few millimeters off, changing the shape a little bit, say from a C to a V, or a bit of, you should be fine. Wood. My first guitar necks were all really thick, really super chunky and really deep, because I did not believe that the wood was going to be strong enough. And wood is incredibly strong, and yeah, you should be fine. You should be fine. Bulgarian Evolution says, once you're on stage with all them flashy lights, you're lucky if you can see the audience or the floor you walk on, let alone tiny dots on a guitar neck. This is true, but then again, I suppose if you're good enough to be on the stage, you probably don't need the inlays. It's not that players are sitting there like this all day, looking at the neck. It's that scary moment where you think, oh, am I at the 5th or the 7th fret here? And a quick look, and that's that. That might happen once a gig, but when you need it, well, you need it. Just like a truss rod. When you really need it, it's good that it's there. And you probably won't need it from one year to the next. But when you do, it's good to have. Paul Need says, hey Ben, the original Yamaha SG2000 was advertised as having a brass sustain plate in the body. I'm not surprised, they're damn heavy instruments in my experience. In the body from and including the heel joint through to the bridge. I've no idea how that fixed neck was done. Well, I assume it was just glued. It was a plate glued underneath the neck and all the way to the body. Now, that is not something I have ever heard, and I'm a fan of the SG-2000, so I've obviously not done my research. I probably have a book right over there somewhere, all about just that guitar. Okay. Ravencroft Guitars says they're going to be attempting a blue to black sunburst with crimson stunning stains for the first time. Got a quick how-to for me? The best bet is to delegate to somebody with a spray booth. An airbrush is very useful if you have it, but in order to carry the stain, which is very thin, you need to put it into something that thickens it up a little bit, and I will have to get back to you on what that something is. Now, Sam over at Crimson Headquarters, Sam1, there's two of them now, has been experimenting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. But in reality, you can apply it just through, just manually. The easiest way, entirely the absolute easiest way, is to put a solid color all the way over the whole guitar. Put your second coat of color all the way over the whole guitar. Sand the center away so that you're creating your burst, and then go back in with the original color that you want in the center. And that gives a very naturalistic effect, because you've got a lot more control over the sandpaper and the graduation that you get with the sandpaper than you do by applying the stains. Now, if you're using water-based stain, you can apply a fairly thick burst around the outside and then go back afterwards with just a wet bit of tissue or a damp bit of tissue, and you can use that to create the graduation and wick away some of the stain that you've laid down. That is not as easy as physically sanding it away, though, in my opinion. Sporadic Amnesic has come back in with another super chat. Thank you very much, dude. And says, what do you think about B-benders? Cool device or unnecessary faff for a very niche use? If I wasn't into unnecessary faff for a very niche use, I would not be a man who collects hand tools. Or hand planes in particular. Or carving tools. I've got planes that I don't use ever, and probably will never need to use because they are that specific, but I love them because I love them. And that one person who would use a B-bender in that one song of a sort of, yeah, for them it's absolutely fine. The only issue I've got with B-benders is going to directly contradict something I said earlier. And that's the fact that you have to absolutely essentially destroy the resale value of a guitar in order to get it. And I've seen B-benders installed into guitars that would have been worth 20, 30,000 pounds and just aren't at this point. But no, I think they're cool, and they do a thing, and they do it well. It's a cool invention. I wonder how the B-bender affects the tone of the guitar when it's not actually in use as a bender. I'm sure it does have an effect. Okay. Mike and Noel says, thanks for the great reply. I will try that. Also considering your GGBO dowel method, but with some sort of decorative rather than structural sides. That guitar was fun. I did enjoy that. I don't know what I'm going to do with GGBO this year. Not a clue. JS Trucking, which way would you suggest to highlight the figure in my purple heart? Ebony stain sanded back or burn it? Burn it, always burn it. Purple heart when lightly shusugi band, is incredible. It looks really good. It looks like purplish ebony, and yeah, it's great. Okay. Sunbase, thank you for your support. Says the old Kubicki Factor bases used 32 pieces of 2mm wide maple to make his laminated necks. Have you ever tried making a neck with that many laminates? And enjoy a cold drink with a super chat. I shall indeed, thank you very much. Yeah, tomorrow I'm supposed to be in meetings all day, and it's going to be a very hot day. I'm seriously considering calling in sick. Doesn't it suck when you're the boss? Okay. I have not tried making a neck with that many laminates. Now, Martin do acoustic guitars with necks with that many laminates, and it makes an incredibly stable neck, and I've played those acoustics and they sound great, and I have absolutely no doubt that that would make a major difference to the bases and make them even more stable. And it's not just that you might have the same amount of maple there, but those glue joints add a certain amount of strength of their own. And yeah, I think it's an absolutely valid way of doing things. This whole solid wood thing, it's so much bumf, in my opinion. I think that I love wood and I love working with wood, and you know me, tools and all of that. But from a sound point of view, there are other things that sound just as good. And it's almost more important to me that a guitar is stable and rings out and all of that than if it is made out of a pretty piece of timber, in my opinion. SM Myers, fun question. How do you remove a fretboard? I've got a bass neck that needs carbon fiber rods, and how far from the truss rod should they be placed, or will I need to refret? Okay. First of all, the carbon fiber rods, I tend to install them I leave a 2mm strip of fresh wood on either side of the truss rod or so. Maybe 2 to 4mm, something like that. I want them relatively central, but I also do want them to be completely encapsulated with wood once the fretboard is on. Now, how to remove a fretboard depends on who put it on. You can... Heat is your friend here. You should be able to just use an iron and warm the whole fretboard up slowly over time, and eventually the glue joint will give. Now, you don't want to heat it up too much, because that's going to increase any movement in the neck wood that you've got, that you're trying to get rid of by employing the use of carbon fiber stiffening rods. Generally, I would say it's going to be easier if you take the frets out. Now, the action of removing the fretboard is going to make the frets move in any case. So at the very least, you are going to have to level, crown and polish again after the fact. I'm absolutely certain of that fact. The issue that you've got is you're going to heat the fretboard up and then use a palette knife to gently crack the glue. But this only works if the luthier has used traditional wood glue, or hide glue, I suppose, to glue the guitar together. If they've used something like that foaming polyurethane stuff, or epoxy, for example, you're not going to be able to get it off. And at that point, it's a case of taking the frets out, gouging the inlays out with extreme prejudice, and then using a plane to plane the excess fretboard off. And it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, Disco 2 says, a message from Kitty. I love building guitars with my daddy. Ben is mega cool. That is, I'm sure that was supposed to read, I love building guitars with my daddy. My daddy is mega cool. Come on. And yes, he is. JS Trucking says, why did I even ask? I knew you were going to say burn it. This is with regards to the Purple Heart earlier. Okay. So Fun, fun, fun. Let me see. Lisa Harshberger, how are you doing? Gothrider Creations says, so what you're saying, Ben, is that my balsa plywood guitar should sound sublime. I have serious reservations about your balsa plywood guitar. Simply because balsa is so... Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens with that one. I found a bunch of balsa wood when I was sorting out my timber store. And yeah, made me think of you. And shake my head. Okay. Rab Knox says, so my 1,000 piece guitar should sound fantastic once it's finished then. Could. Okay. Sweet Tea says, in other words, playability and tone have to come first in every build. I know we all go by that basic principle, and that to me is the secret sauce. It is. The first thing is construction, and if you've got a good solid construction, I don't care whether it is a bolt-on neck or a set neck, for example, a well-made bolt-on neck that fits nicely and is snug and is bolted on properly will sound as good as a set neck that is well done and nice and tight and all of that jazz. I find that the tone comes through good construction. Bad tone comes from bad construction, but good tone, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway. Okay, Sporadic Amnesic says he just found a video for Shisugi Ban on Purple Heart on Maker Cuisine's channel. Okay, first of all, Sporadic Amnesic, I need to put you into a slight timeout for leaving the chat while you were obviously Googling away doing something else. It's just, it hurts. It hurts. Maker Cuisine, I have never heard of them. But anyway, I'm also dripping water all down my front here. So there we go. Ben Crowe, come for the guitar building, not to learn how to drink from a water bottle. Jeroen Verhoeven says, evening Ben, I'm planning to build a semi-open frame fan fret Explorer in ash and maybe with some oak veneer. For the multi-scale I need single string saddles, but what I can find are bass saddles only. I'm pretty sure I've even bought guitar single string saddles. Is it ABM that makes them? On Amazon. Hipshot, there we go. Hipshot single string guitar bridge, go for that. So if you search bridge rather than saddle, you should be okay. Oftentimes it's literally just messing around with your search terms. So for example, last week, oh, look at this, where are we? 166 viewers and quite far into the stream. I've got an announcement. The term. So last week we were talking about whether I have J-Bass pickup templates on the website, and one of you guys couldn't find them, and that was because you were searching for J-Bass templates rather than Jazz-Bass templates. Now, we've added J-Bass to the listing so that it comes up, but yeah, mess with the search terms. Now, through, in no small part, talking to you guys, I have now made a change on the Crimson Guitars website. This doesn't apply to the Vintage Tool Shop yet, because that's a completely different animal. But the shipping in the UK from Crimson Guitars is now entirely free. So anything you purchase within the UK will be free shipping. And for the rest of the world, we're going to subsidize the UK shipping by charging you guys more. I'm sorry, but you know, that's the way to do it. For the rest of the world, there are 2 shipping bans, and only 2. One is going to be £10 and one is going to be £20. Whether you buy a template set that would have shipped for coming up on $100 to the States, and I'm not even joking, it's just how much it costs, or 5 template sets, you will only be charged the top £20. Now, this is something that there is a trial period here. It's going to be for a minimum of 3 months, unless it's going to totally bankrupt me, which is entirely possible. But yes, we are we're doing that. Old man Bill says, you didn't just leave your own chat to look up on Amazon. Shame on you. Okay, but there we go. So yeah, UK shipping free anywhere, anywhere else in the world, no matter whether you're in Southeast Asia or America or Canada or wherever. It'll be capped. So I think that'll work. Sweet Tea saying Sophia.com has some of the nicest bridges you will ever see. Bill Pogansky says, hi Ben, I'm a proud owner of the original Crimson pickup winder. Is it better to practice on cheaper wood? Thank you. That was a very short-lived project. They were made to such high standards that the price, it was very difficult. Yeah, nicely done. And that was a while ago now. And then there's a question, is it better to practice on cheaper wood to start out, or just go for it with the woods you intend to build with? Honestly, just go for it with the woods that you intend to build with, unless you intend to build with, I don't know, 50,000-year-old swamp wood from New Zealand. I'm oddly specific. I can't remember the name of the damn wood now. We've got some fun stuff happening. The difference between cheap wood, i.e. probably stuff that you would go and find at a local big box store, and good wood that is good enough to build is not actually that different. For example, a body blank in construction timber is going to be 10 quid. A body blank 10 or 20 quid probably nowadays. A body blank in ash is maybe 2 or 3 times that, but in reality it's going to be, you know, probably less than a day's wage for an average person. Whereas the sheer amount of time that you put into building a guitar out of substandard timber is going to really mess you up. Now, I don't suggest that you use a horrendously expensive quilted maple top with your first build or two until you're comfortable with it. Absolutely not. But I also don't think that using a particularly soft wood, unless that's the effect that you're after, is wise. Okay. Vulcan Essence says, hi Ben, while you're doing announcements, any news on the kits? They seem to be up on the page again. Cheers. Yes, so same thing with kit guitars. The kit guitars are now back. What we have had to change is the sheer amount of customization that we were offering. About 50% of the kits that we were building were, to all intents and purposes, custom guitars, with 10 to 20 or in some cases even more emails backwards and forwards for no extra cost. And it turns out it was we have been making a loss on every single kit guitar that we've built, essentially as a result of the time spent in the administration, but also, you know, when you're building a kit guitar and everything is custom, it takes 2-3 times as long, and there were surcharges, but not enough. Now we've gone back to a very, very basic set of kit guitars, and those are the same price they were. They are also covered by the same shipping rules and costs, etc., even though they are very heavy and expensive to ship. And yeah, available, and I will be adding to them. Now, the other thing that I've done is I've spent a lot of time at headquarters working on changes. Just checking that we're still live because I can't see what's going on over there now. I've been working on changes to the production techniques. So instead of the way we were doing it, which was very custom shoppy, we're doing a little bit more production, and we're being more clever about it, we think. So yeah, that should be fun. Sweet Tea says, great news on the shipping. That's been my hold up on purchasing templates from you. Thank you. Thank you, Sweet Tea. It's an absolute pleasure. Yeah, it's one of those things. If you look at the YouTube channel, if you look at how many people watch from around the world versus how many people are able to buy from us from around the world, there's a stark difference. Our biggest market is the UK because it's, yeah, and the bulk of that is because it's relatively inexpensive to ship. And especially through COVID and how the whole world is gone, shipping is very expensive at the moment. But I'm happy to make less profit if it means that more people get to experience what we do. So there we go. Tahoe Mike says, I once got suspended from school for cutting class. I took the deal. I'm facing pushback. I'm trying to get the kids to, I'm trying to keep the kids out of school tomorrow because it's going to be so hot and the UK's not, and they all want to go. And so, rebels. Okay. Jamie's like, wait a sec, you're going to put him in a timeout for taking time out from the stream? I get it. I have no idea what that timber is, Scotsman. So sorry. Okay. Okay, and there's pictures of a crimson handle that a rat has apparently been chomping on. Ew. That's sad. Mark, you're hilarious. Mark sent me a message on. No, I'm not gonna say that actually because you could get in trouble for that. Now, I need questions, people. Give me questions. Steve Eason says, hi Ben, I've built a guitar and the break angle is pretty much flat. The bridge is flat, the body and the action is high at the dusty end of the fretboard. How do I remedy this? Thank you. Break angle, bridge is flat, the body and the action is high. The easiest thing to do, what I have done in this situation, and it happened more times than I care to admit, you need to lower the bridge by routing a hole underneath it and inlaying the bridge into the body. Now, if this is a tunematic bridge, you can actually take 5 or 6 millimeters of material away by grinding it or filing it flat. And that is also something I've had to do in the past. It happens often enough that I'm actually seriously considering adding a template to the Crimson Guitars site so that you can route tunematics. But anyway, questions. Luna's Luthiery, how you doing? Says, good night. Ben, how do you decide what capacity to use in a guitar? Very good question. And what would you pick for an HH guitar setup with split coil in both volume and tone and a 3-way Teddy style switch? So traditionally, humbuckers have a 47 cap. However, I haven't done this yet. However, what I would like to do is make essentially a stomp box with a multi-switch that's got different capacitors on it, so that you can hook it up to your guitar and then see how that guitar sounds through various different caps. It is 100% not a given that a 47 will sound right. Is it mega ohm or ohm? I don't know. Hello, fried chicken. How you doing? Oh, yes. So apparently, come on, down you go. Up you go. Let's go. Nope, nope, nope. Oh, yes, you gorgeous thing. So apparently, these puppies, who look like this, Google's algorithms can't tell whether they're puppies or fried chicken. Neither can I. I'm hungry now though. Okay. Now, so that's what I would do. I would try and use multiple different capacitors, going through the guitar to see what sounds best with that particular guitar. What have you stolen? What have you got? No, liquor. That's a Harry Potter balloon. No balloons. Out. Go. 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 This is a professional live stream. You go. No. It was a kid's birthday party yesterday. It was actually pretty cool. All right. Lisa says it was 21 odd euros with shipping for a €6 bottle of stain. That's a good, this is the thing. So we are making changes. Now, sweet tea, we've done that. Kiwi Quarters has come in. Says, weird one, Ben, will an adjustable wraparound bridge work with a trem? If you don't wrap the strings, of course. I don't think so. Obviously, it would be a sort of a more vintagey style trem for starters. But no, something like that would require roller saddles, in my opinion. And it's no. There's a slight possibility, but I don't want to give you that hope. Don't do it. Buy a roller saddle tunematic if you're going to do something like that. Instead, it's better in every way. Yeah. Okay. Now Rune Onsen has come in with 500 Norwegian kroners, which looks like a fairly significant super chat. I really do appreciate this. Thank you very much. I think that's about 50 quid. It's coming up as red, which is significant. So thank you very much. All of these things, well, they really help. But the question is interesting. It says, hi Ben, the old Norwegian ski makers always used dead wood standing for making skis. I can't but wonder, would dead wood standing make for better guitar top on an acoustic guitar top too? Now the question is, what dead standing wood? Okay. This is not something I have ever considered. Standing dead trees are also often called snags, and they're common. It's hard to overstate just how vital a role they play in a healthy ecosystem, etc. And yeah, they're called the standing dead. Okay, so not only was that a fairly significant super chat, but it is that rare beast, a question that I've not heard before, but also something to do with guitar making that I have never considered. Okay, so let's think about this. A standing dead tree means the tree died and then it stayed in place and essentially dried in position. When you cut a tree down, there's periods of time where you can cut a tree down and periods of time where it's really not a good idea. For example, when the sap is rising in the spring, you don't want to cut a tree down. It's not ideal. Now we do have, I'm fairly sure I saw, there's a Luthier in here who's got they cut wood down, and I've just forgotten the name because I'm an absolute fool because I'm thinking about standing deadwood. But what happens is that if you've got a tree that dies while it's still standing up and then it just stays there and dries out, all of the sap that was in the tree will, I assume, sploosh out the bottom. And yeah, I really do think that that's actually a very, very interesting way of doing things. Now, Krenov, who was a very famous furniture maker, insisted that using air-dried timber was much, much better than using kiln-dried timber, because air-dried timber, you don't crystallize all of the minerals, you don't cook the tree, you don't shatter the capillaries and veins and all of that inside the wood by just cooking it to death, and it gives you an easier to work timber, and oftentimes it's lighter. It takes a lot longer to dry, and air-dried timber tends not to dry quite as much as kiln-dried. So for example, in the UK, a wood will dry to an average of 13 or 14% versus the 8 or 9% that most guitar builders will want to use. Now, I don't think that's too much of an issue. I do think that it's more fun to work with air-dried timber. It feels nicer to work with if you're using hand tools. Now, I think that a standing tree, a standing dead tree, or a dead wood standing, as we've said here, would have similar properties, but potentially even more so. I think that all of the minerals, I don't know. I'm really, really interested in that. I think it would be great. And yes, I'm Googling, because this is interesting. Wooden skis, dead standing pine tree for the wood. I'm just trying to find out why. Okay. Okay, I can't find a quick and easy solution to that, but that's a damn fine question, and Rune, that is going to be in the back of my mind for a long time. Let's have a look. Okay, now where are we? The big unit says, can you demonstrate the correct way to measure scale length? I tried to follow directions I found on the internet and I came up with 24.75, but using my Crimson fret scale ruler, the frets line up at the 25.5 scale. I think it's potential that you're looking at the fret scale ruler wrong. The Crimson fret scale ruler has two sides. I'm not going to get up and go and get it. It's all the way over on the other side of the room. I think it has two sides, and that is the case. You're essentially looking at the measurement on the opposite side and using this side to measure. The easiest way is to measure to your 12th fret with a ruler and double it, period. Put your ruler up against the nut line or against the nut if the nut is in place, measure to the 12th fret and make sure you're measuring to the 12th fret, not the 11th or the 13th, and then double it, and that will be the nominal scale length. Sporadic amnesic. Am I still in a timeout? You never were, it was a joke. Marsha, how are you, Marsha? Marsha says, the plane I bought and sent you pics of, the ball handle was attached with a bent bolt, so split in 3 places due to humidity changes. Should I glue it and pray or find a replacement? I'm devastated. Marsha, I think glue it, and you don't necessarily need to pray about it. You should be fine. It's a beautiful, beautiful plane. We re-glue plane handles on a regular basis. It's one of those things that often gets broken. Yeah, I think done well, and now that it's acclimatized to where you are, you should be fine. Finding a dead nuts replacement for a plain tote or knob is not that easy. So Sean, who works at the Crimson Luthiers school, he's one of the luthiers in there. He, like me, is a nut for hand planes, and he's been trying to find the perfect low knob for for early Stanleys, relatively early Stanleys. Every single one of them looks different to him, and he can't find one that he thinks is the best. And even looking at my planes here, they're all slightly different. So there we go. Eric Jewell has been a member for 4 months. Thank you very much, Eric. Says, I'm making a bass with a Picana Negra fretboard, which has half and half hardwood and sapwood. Anything special while installing frets in sapwood? No, nothing special at all. Make sure that the slot is the correct size, and it'll be fine. They should go in a little bit easier. Use the standard traditional techniques. I'm assuming you will hit the two ends of the fret in first and then ease it out from the middle so that the tangs will go in sideways a little bit. Under the sapwood in particular, that will help. It essentially means that the tang will be underneath fresh wood rather than a perfectly radiused fret that just goes straight down. It could go straight back up again. But yeah, it's fairly standard. I made a pair of Star Wars inspired guitars 20 plus years ago. Probably was about 20 years ago now. And they were matching guitars, but it was Rebels and Alliance essentially. And they had Padauk fretboards with Padauk and sapwood. And they were sort of opposite each other, and yeah, there's no issues unless the sapwood is a particularly sappy sapwood, and I've not experienced Picana Negra myself, so I don't know. Ravencroft, how's it going? Says, regardless of how GGBO goes for me, would I be able to get you to watch it and send feedback? I'll pay for the coffee you drink while watching, lol. Absolutely, I'm going to be watching a hell of a lot of it, but yes, I will give you a special consideration if you would so like it. I've been told I need to cut down on the coffee. It's very sad. Volcanism says, hi Ben, what's the issue in the nut again if the string sounds like a sitar? Okay, so the issue is that your nut slot, okay, put your tuners on this side, your bridge on this side, your string wants to go down, and you want it to go down from the front edge, from the bridge edge of the nut. You want to go down on a slight angle. What's happened is your nut slot is probably shaped like this. So there's a tiny gap between the bottom of the string and the front of the nut slot, or the bridge side of the nut slot. If you take your thumbnail and push the string down on the bridge side of the nut slot, it should stop that sitar-like sound. But essentially what you need to do is cut the nut slot flat and away and towards the tuners, and that should solve that problem. If you don't have enough room, then dust and super glue in the nut slot should do it. The most important thing though is that you have to compact that dust and super glue well while it is drying, or you'll end up with a spongy mess that doesn't do very well. And it's surprising not that many people know that that is something that you need to think about. Okay, Ravencroft says, also, can we get pricing in Canadian dollars on the site? That I don't know. I will have a look into that tomorrow. I'm not going to start singing the song. JS Trucking says, Reed Planes on Instagram can help with plane parts. Reed Planes on Instagram. I'm going to have to check that out. So, we're Crimson, we're we're on TikTok as well, because everybody's saying you have to be on TikTok. I don't know. For some reason it's not working for me at the moment, but I will check them out. I mean, I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of plane parts, and even so for Vintage Tool Shop, and it's crazy. Kauri wood. Lisa, thank you very much. Kauri wood. That's the stuff I'm talking about earlier. 50,000, 60,000 years old. Incredibly expensive. Very beautiful. Kind of looks like koa, but yeah, it's fun. Andrew Monday says, Ben, will you be doing a live build anytime soon? I am trying to get all my ducks in a row. I'm not sure what the plans are for live streaming work. I think I'm probably going to be live streaming shorter projects where I can say, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be doing a plane restoration or sharpening scraper or a repair and restoration project, or even an aging project, something like that. I think that for the guitar builds themselves, and this is something particularly special, I feel I need to concentrate more on the build than on the chat. Now, having somebody here makes it great, but makes it interesting and fun, but doing that also is prohibitively expensive, basically. So yeah, it's one of those things. Ravencroft Guitar says, whoever told you that you need to cut down on coffee is wrong. Even if they are a doctor, more coffee is always better. Lol. I agree. I absolutely agree. Paul Need says, would I be right in assuming the blade of the Crimson Guitar's fret slotting saw is okay for the frets you sell? It is okay for 99% of the frets we sell, although we are adding more, and there are certain frets that are made with slightly larger tangs for repair work, for example. But the basic standard frets, yes. Absolutely. JS Trucking says, just make the remainder of the hand tool build be live stream. Hell no. That's going to be so time consuming. I'm going to be doing a lot of filming from headquarters as well. And there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff going on. I'm trying to clear my head, and I'm trying to get my head back in the game properly. If you follow us on Instagram, there's going to be more on there. There's going to be a lot of YouTube shorts on both channels. On the Crimson Guitars Extras, it's going to be more just the behind the scenes funny things and me dropping lathes on my foot and things like that. On the main channel, I will be doing YouTube shorts, but they will be, here is how I string up a guitar. You know, tips and tricks and short things like that. And also bits and pieces from older builds. Fun stuff. Yeah. Okay, Lisa Harshberger says, you may want to add in description for base raffle that you will add frets if they want. It may sell more tickets. Not that that helps me, but for you. It is in the description, just right towards the end of that. But yeah, Lisa, I sincerely hope you win that. Phil Gerke says, thoughts on the current model Stanley low-angle jack plane? I've heard new Stanley stuff is garbage. Maybe say for a Lee Nielsen or Wood River. New Stanley stuff is actually not as bad as I thought it was. We seem to have gone out of the period where they would put their name on anything, even if it actually couldn't be used as a tool. Excuse me, long day. So that's, but we're past that point now. There may need to be some fettling, but in general, I think they are actually very nice tools. As long as you know what to look for if there are issues. Now, generally, the adjustable toe, the sole at the front of the plane that goes backwards and forwards, on a low-angle block plane that I had new from Stanley about 10 years ago, they had drilled through and left the swarf or the tear out underneath that and hadn't leveled it all the way, so the plane wasn't flat. But taking that out dealt with it. So yeah, I would say go for it. Now, Lee Nielsen, I'm looking at one. Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. Oh my gosh, you guys are now going to be yawning. This is the first time I've sat down all day and my body is saying, ha, bedtime. They're impeccable, and if you can plump for one, go a little bit more expensive, then I would suggest that. Guangsheng make, and I think Guangsheng make the Wood River planes. I might be wrong, please don't quote me on that. They're incredible, and they are a lot less than Lie-Nielsen's. If you can get them, there's a worldwide supply issue with everything at the moment. Veritas make very, very nice tools as well, and their low angle jacks are incredible. We've got a surfeit of options, and it really has. We've gone from the sort of 80s and 90s where tools weren't even tools to having all these options, and it's incredible. It really is. We're living in good times, I must say. Okay. Questions? Stephen Hatch says the sap withdraws back in towards the center of the tree. With pine, this can result in what's called fat wood, very resin-rich wood that is used to start fires. Okay, that's interesting. Esrom is quoting me, sploosh out the bottom. We're talking about sap. I do wonder how... Tahoe Mike says the sap collects at the base of the tree. Campers use the fat wood to start fires. Okay. And that's when an instrument is, that's when the tree has died. What happens to the sap after the tree dies? Is that all used as it's dying, and then you've got essentially an empty tree? I want to actually cut down a dead tree now to figure that out. Yes. Luna's Lutherie says, thanks Ben, maybe a video idea short on how to make an installation with multiple different capacitors, because I don't really see how to make that. The easiest thing to do is, I once had a card where I had multiple different capacitors and wires were soldered to them with little crocodile clips, and I just actually clipped those in place on the pot in the guitar. That's the simplest way of doing that. But yes, I want to do that as a video. In fact, I've wanted to do that as a video and as a product for 6 or 7 years. Anyway. Disco Stu says, news for when that offset prototype is available to buy. How much would you retail them for? I'm not entirely sure. This was a guitar that I showed recently. I'm not entirely sure on the price. We're thinking somewhere around about the £3,000 mark. But I don't know. It needs to have a mastery bridge. It needs to have handmade pickups, etc. It's one of those things, but we are working on them. If you are seriously interested, Disco Stu, then drop Ricky an email, for example, and just say, hey, yo, let me know when this is out. It's not a promise to buy, but keep me in the loop. Now, it is something that... There we go. Okay, I remember I've been talking about this a couple of days ago. The final prototype, I hope what's going to be the final prototype of that, will be done as Crimson Guitars professional entry, or entry in the professional category of the Great Guitar Build-Off. So yeah, you will see a video of that guitar being put together, and actually, if I'm happy with it, and I'm not going to be building it, it'll be one of our other luthiers. I'll be in the room, but yeah, you'll watch it. That's really cool. Alexis Guitar says, hi Ben, would you consider making a tutorial on making a DIY guitar wraparound bridge? I'm thinking of making one out of brass and wood for the bass, but then it's tricky with grounding strings. Grounding strings is always the issue. I think whatever I choose would be different to what you have in mind. So, yes, at some point I will make that sort of bridge, a wraparound. Problematic. It's not likely to happen. And I don't like saying no very often. It's not likely to happen anytime soon. It's also not likely to help you if I did do it. I have made carved aluminium bridges before that went with tail pieces. I've never made a wraparound bridge. Thinking about it now. Okay. JS Trucking says, I'm still stuck on deciding pickups for my build. Either a hot rod at the neck or a humbucking bridge or double humbucker. I've got stuck in the rut of using double humbuckers. I am in love with mini humbuckers after playing recent guitars and seeing some interesting instruments at the guitar show up in Birmingham that we went to. Hot rod at the neck. I'm not going to help you on that one. I'm not going to help you. Disco Stu says, I want to buy that guitar. I would drop us an email. Drop us an email. The first prototype is being raffled for GGBO, of course. That's the deal with that one. The very first prototype that you've already seen could be up for grabs. I don't know. I mean, as a guitar, it's perfect. It's just not the final thing. So yeah, drop us an email, Disco Stu. If you want that first prototype, I think we could potentially sell it to you. Yeah, why not? Okay. We're going to get 20 emails from people saying, I'm Disco Stu, sell me that guitar. Will the real Disco Stu please stand up? Okay. Okay, everybody. The concurrent viewers are slowly going down. I don't seem to have very many questions that I can see. Lisa asked earlier if it was possible to expand on my experiment with the barbecue and melting aluminium. I do think that there are better ways. Basically, what I messed up with, I just didn't have a solid enough barbecue. It needs to be something beefy enough to not melt. Now, what I would do is I would probably get an old coffee can, something like that, line it with fire bricks and melt it that way. So create a blowforge. But molten metal and metal is not my strong point, really. The big unit has come in and says, I'm debating doing one more digression video teaching the basics of how guitar electronics work and what each component actually does. Please do that, big unit. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. Greg Freeman says, I upgraded my Les Paul with pseudo bumblebee caps and it sounds much better. I do think the cheap caps can sound pretty poopy. Yeah, I can't think of a better alliteration than that. I've got some really cool looking old antique caps that just sound horrific, even though they measure as sort of 47, etc. But anyway. Magenta Bridges says, hi Ben, I want to make a 6-string violin bass. Can I just buy a violin body and route it, or will I need to make a larger one to accommodate the neck? I would say buy a viola and do that, and that would be better from a... I think that would look a little bit more balanced. I have seriously considered taking... in fact, I've got some that I was going to do exactly this to. I was seriously considering taking a violin and turning it into a ukulele, just as a sort of clickbaity, cool, fun little project. So yeah, that would be awesome to see you do. Okay. Okay, Marsh going to send pictures of the before and after of the broken plane. It's always fun restoring tools when it goes well. What's the neck break angle of a Les Paul? Don't bother with working out the angles. Please just draw the physical thing. Draw the side view of the instrument. Your string is straight. Your neck is in place. Draw the neck underneath the strings. Put the fret height in, etc. Measure the height of your bridge. Draw that onto the piece of paper. Give yourself 4 or 5 millimeters of space, and then draw a line from the base of the bridge after you've got some adjustment for height and the position where the fretboard comes off, and that gives you the angle. In reality, it's probably 1.5 to 2.5 degrees, but just physically do it. Physically draw it. You don't need to work out angles. I'm sure I've even done videos on how to do that. Disco Stew says, hi Ben, I'm going to try and get the prototype. Cool. Well, drop us an email. Luna's Luthiers says, no, keep the first prototype for the Crimson Archives, just like Pierre says. Tahoe Mike is asking why the hand tool build is taking so long. You don't have to wire it. I have spent all the time that I would have been building that, I have spent either finishing this extension or working at headquarters. There have been a lot of changes that needed to be made in order to make everything run properly. We are going into a major recession, it looks like, and sales are right down, and I've been having to run the business rather than have the fun in the workshop. And to be honest, because I've done the extension, building a guitar in this workshop, because of the utter chaos that the extension has made that building not fun at all, because it's just too much of a mess. So yeah, the bass build is going live right now because that was filmed on live streams as a quick and easy way of filming something. I'm now almost finished with the extension. This is starting to come together, and I'm going to be able to crack back on with the hand tool build without the distractions. I've put the changes in place at the business. We've got all the right staff in place. I've got a workshop manager now who's incredible and a very, very talented instrument builder as well, actually. We're moving things around, making changes and fixing and changing and growing, and it's going to be awesome. Really is. But I couldn't do all of these things and the hand tool build at the same time. It would have killed me. Tunguska Guitar says, would you put a high gloss solid finish on a top before gluing to a natural body? Never. Do all of the gluing, all the clamping, all the everything before you start applying finish of any sort. Period. Joe Brown says, what's your video and audio capture hardware setup look like, Benjamin? Okay, so at this point I've got 2 microphone stands. I've got a Canon 90D that I'm looking at right now. There is a Canon M6 Mark II. Those are my 2 main cameras for pretty close-ups and different things. Those are now both mobile, hooked up via HDMI cable to the ATEM Mini Pro. I've got a 250D above the workbench and a 250D as a sort of main establishing shot camera there. Both of those are on rails so that they can we can change angles as well, and I can see the whole workbench now. And part of the workshop extension here was to give myself a lot more head height so that the upper camera's got a much better shot. I am using Sennheiser EWG4 microphones now, finally, after many years. Creever, I insisted I buy them, and he was 100% correct. No, Carol Wood, I did not get rid of Tom, my MD, not at all. We've just been changing fundamental other things. Tom, I've had Tom forever, and he's incredible. So that's the audio at the moment. and it's all going into the ATEM Mini Pro. There's 4 cameras going in. I do have a ceiling mounted microphone in there that will be moving in here as just a backup, but if this audio goes, then I can just use the camera audio as well. The only issue I've got with the ATEM Mini Pro is it's only pushing out 1080p. I do feel the need to start doing content in 4K. I think I'm a little bit behind the curve on that. Yeah, with the 90D and the M6 Mark II, I can do that, but I need to upgrade to a different stream hardware, ATEM, yeah, the next ATEM up basically. Should do that, but that's also streaming and recording to an SSD, so it's pretty cool. I use a Canon R5 as my walkabout camera, and which is absolutely mind-blowing. I can film in 8K with that, and that is going to be amazing. So that's what I use when I'm filming at headquarters for the most part, and when I'm visiting other people. And that's just one camera. I've currently got a Rode VideoMic Pro, which is awesome because the Rode VideoMic Pro turns on and off when you turn the camera on and off. So you're not wasting battery all the time. It's relatively simple, but so cool. JS Trucking says, any invitational competition updates yet? I'm not going to tell you names. But there are some very, very cool names confirmed. And it's happening. So the invitational and the professional GGBO sections I've moved the dates back so that they finish 2 or 3 months after the main competition. I've decided that there's just too much going on, there's far too much going on, and this will give everybody something to watch after they've finished their part of the thing. But it's going to be mind-blowing, and it's all going to be ending. In fact, the main video announcing Christmas, New Year's, there's going to be a video on Christmas showing everything from all the professional and the invitationals, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be very, very cool. Bulgarian Evolution says, Krivarai suggested drum cymbal stands for his cameras a few streams back. I saw that because of the tripod legs versus than just a weighted base of a mic stand. The mic stand's not quite strong enough, but I'm going to go and I'm going to buy... This was a conversation I had with my wife earlier. Darling, I'm going to go and buy some weights from the local sort of shop that sells weights. And she's like, why? Absolutely knowing full well that I am not intending to use them as weights. No, I'm going to put a couple of free weights on the base of the mic stands, and it'll be perfectly fine. Nice and heavy. Toby D says, evening Ben, it's been a scorcher here in Southend. Yeah, I'm not surprised. How hot was your workshop today? I had to stay out of mine today. It was such an episode. It was like an episode of Tenko in there. I've been out in a field at a car show. It was only 29 degrees where I was, although it felt like more. Frugal Fixer says, I have 4K files in piles. I cannot imagine 8 flipping K footage. I agree. Paul Need says, is there any point in all this audio visual if you're cutting back substantially on live stuff? No, sorry, yes, 100%. It does make the filming much easier whether I'm streaming it or not. Yes, it makes everything faster. It means I can film more. And yeah. Ford 351WPI says, is the Strat template kit set up for American hardware? Absolutely. Hardware is standard across the board. Divergent is making some sawdust. Carol Wood says, damn, that means I can't steal him, Tom. Yeah, nobody can steal Tom. Tom is mine. I will fight you for him. Ford 351, with regards to the Strat template set, yes, we will do an HSS for you, and yeah, that is something that we've already drawn up, so that should be possible. It should be fine. And Creeverai, yes, I've got small rig ball head camera tripod heads basically on the two mic stands. They work with the same threads, so yeah, it's perfectly fine. Okay, everybody, I'm running low on energy. We have been, we've been doing this for coming up on 2 hours, so we lasted longer than we did last week. That's that. Go to 11 says, hi Ben, +1 for the Tunematic recess template. That's something that I need to fix my Loudon style. Okay, we can sort that out, and the question ran off the edge of the screen. Also waiting for the strop tool release. That should be imminent. I saw a roll of beautiful leather the other day, so hopefully those will be coming through very soon. Oh, Steve Easton, that's a good tip. Thank you very much. Okay, Frugal Fixer. Ben, I'm doing the Les Paul in my one-piece style on the sled, so I need a rough number to adjust to, so 2 degrees. Yeah, about 2 degrees. Should be around about right. Joe Thornell. Hi, Bun. Have you ever tried to make a drill hole bigger with the right-sized bit in one shot? Not brad point, obviously. Can't be that bad if you don't go 0.5mm increments. It really can be that bad. Going in one shot will almost certainly create a huge amount of tear out, and you will regret it. If you question me, go and do it on some scrap and you'll see what I'm talking about. 9 times out of 10 you'll end up with a damaged bit of wood. Even if I'm going 0.5mm increments to make a hole bigger, even when I'm doing that, I run the drill backwards so that it's more friction than cut. Seriously. The Big Unit says, will you ever do live builds again? I will, just not. I need to get this sorted. I absolutely need to get this sorted. JS Trucking says, what kinds of clips would you like to see from the dash cam footage? Accidents and meteorites for preference, but no, it's just cool to watch the general day-to-day life. It's awesome. Yeah, dealer's choice. Okay, Beth, how are you? Beth says, good night or day or whatever time of the clock you're at. Be safe and happy all. Okay. All right, everybody. Where's Terry Love? I haven't seen Terry for a while. Haha. George Davis says, I'm glad you found a good place for the crow and the squirrel. I've got a squirrel back up here. Okay, everybody, look, we're going to call it a night or a day or a morning or wherever you are. I really want to say thank you very much for your support. You guys are incredible. Well, you are incredible. I will be back again with live stream builds at some point. I might even throw in another live stream Q&A at some point midweek, but we'll see what happens. I'm at headquarters tomorrow, making a few more adjustments, but I'm very much looking forward to getting this workshop finished, and I need to get building. I need to get building. JS Trucking says, Terry is in timeout, lol. So there we go. Hold on, Luna's Lutherie with one final question. I went to a Rolling Stones concert the other day, and during Paint It Black, an electric sitar was used and made me wonder what kind of hardware you need to build one. Sitar bridges, you can buy a standard sitar bridge. That's, if I recall, a direct replacement for a standard Fender flat, so not trim, a Fender hardtail style bridge. And yeah, essentially it's just a vibrate. Yeah. It makes the strings vibrate after the saddles, basically. What is the best? Yeah, this is the point. I'm running low on the ability to describe myself. You've got the saddle which moves backwards and forwards, and then instead of having a great big drop so you can hit the strings, it's very, very close up to where the saddle is. And goes, although I've not ever used one. That's that. We're done. You guys rule. Creeverai says that I need some vacation. I think you're absolutely right. I do have a week off next in a couple of weeks with the kids. I am doing Sunday live streams. I'm definitely doing Sunday live streams. The Sunday 8 p.m. UK live stream question time will always be on Sunday. I'm thinking about potentially adding a random one every now and then, just for fun. But no, this is good. Everybody, you rule. I will see you soon. Thank you very much for your support. Have a good week. I hope you survive the heat. And those of you who are unable to spend any time in your workshop, my commiserations. See you soon. Goodbye.